Hello, Bay Ridge. Welcome to another edition of After Hours. Well, this Sunday we got rained out and we had to move inside, but glad nonetheless that we were able to gather for worship, and even for those who can't make it to inside gatherings, that we can be able to meet together online. And of course, on Sunday we talked a little bit about what it means that the church is a community of worship, that we are people who gather for worship. And what I wanted to do in this after hours, something a little bit different. I wanted to kind of give some practical tips on getting ready for worship. Now, this is really important because, as many of you know, I used to do a lot of, long distance running and some races and things. And while you train every day and you are out there preparing every day, you treat things a little bit differently as it gets close to race day. You have to be specifically prepared for the day of the race, or else you won't run well on race day. It won't be a good day for you. And there's nothing more frustrating than when you've been prepared and you get to the race and you just have a bad day. So I want us to kind of think about it in terms of like that as we gather for worship, it's the same kind of a thing. We want to be prepared so that we get the most out of the gathering with God's people. So how do we do that? These are just a few practical tips that I've learned through my 42 years of walking with Jesus, how these things work to help us prepare for worship. The first thing is, just like in running a race, you have to be prepared. So you spend time in the Word and prayer each day. If I tried to run a half marathon or a marathon and I had not done the training ahead of time, it's going to be bad on race day no matter what. And if you and I are not spending time with God each day throughout the week preparing, well, when we gather on Sunday, it's far less likely that we're really going to be able to receive from Him. So we need to make sure that each and every day we just spend time in God's Word. We spend time praying and talking with Him, both in dedicated time and just throughout the day, that we are walking with, hearing from God and responding back to Him. Secondly, we have to make sure that the worship meeting is permanently on my calendar. I can't do well in a race if I don't show up to the race. I can't really draw from God's presence if I don't gather with God's people. So we make sure that it is permanently on the calendar. And I mean, you put it down and it's sacrosanct. You don't do anything else during that time. Thirdly, I don't stay up late the night before. When I was running races, you prepared really closely the last couple of days, making sure you tried to get adequate rest, making sure you ate right. So I do the same thing here. I don't stay up late on Saturday night, because if I come in tired, then it's harder to hear from God. I learned this actually when I was a midshipman and part of this church. I had some friends, and we would sometimes, in fellowship and being in the Word and talking and doing things, but we'd stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning on Saturday night doing good things actually, but then we would be very tired on Sunday morning. We started noticing it and then challenging each other. You know what? We need to get to bed so we're fresh and ready to hear and receive from God when we gather on Sunday. I also, on the actual day when we gather, I don't do other things. I don't really read a lot of social media. I don't really check my email. I don't go out and surf the web and do it, because that starts getting my mind distracted by other things. I wake up, and from the moment I'm awake, I start preparing to gather with God's people, which includes, rather than doing all those things and listening to whatever other music I might listen to during the week, on Sunday mornings, I only listen to worship music. Throughout the entire morning, I have worship music playing. I'm beginning to get my mind set in. Again, just like when it was, race day, from the very moment I woke up, I was thinking about and preparing for the race, and I didn't let a lot of other distractions get in my way. I do the same thing. I encourage you. There's lots of good worship music out there. Get up and put on some hymns or some worship songs. Start to get your mind ready, and forget about social media, newspaper, websites, email, all that other stuff. Let that wait until another time. Then I make sure I arrive at the meeting early, not rushing at the last minute. I won't say which of my kids, but all 3 of my sons have run marathons, but one of them one time got to the race late. Literally, the race had already started. The people were gone. He had to run from the parking lot to get there because he had been caught in traffic because he hadn't prepared ahead of time. And we were trying to help him pin the stuff on his jersey as he was taking off, but he was literally already 6 or 7 minutes late. So he ran the race well that day, but not nearly as well as he could have because he had so much to make up with. Well, the same thing happens here when I gather for worship. You don't want to be coming in at the last minute. You absolutely don't want to be late. We should never arrive late for worshiping with God, because from the moment we start the meeting, God is speaking to us and we are responding, and you don't want to come in part way through the thing. But you don't even want to arrive at the last second. You need to get there plenty early. I always arrived a couple of hours even before the race, just so that I was relaxed and I was ready to go. Come in, be ready, spend time in fellowship. Don't come here late. Make sure your phone's silenced and you're not paying attention to other things, so that as we begin the meeting, when one of the guys is standing up and opening and reading something out of God's Word to us, we want to be focused in paying attention, putting off all of the distractions. So anything else that is a distraction, my phone, something else going on, put it away. Don't pay attention to it. Set your mind resolutely on hearing from God. It's the only time we gather corporately as a body, one time a week. We want to get the most out of it. So these are just a few tips, and I want you to think about that, and you may add some others, but we ought to plan. I used to try, and I tried different things to try and make sure that I was as ready as I could be when it came time for the race. But see, that race is not nearly as important as the race we are running of walking with Jesus and serving Him faithfully. And I want us to understand corporate worship is not optional. It is essential to our spiritual health, to our family, and even to our culture and nation. Some Christians have got all upset during the coronavirus thing with some of the laws that governors have placed. And I'm not saying that there's no reason to be upset about some of the things, but some of them got upset and said, the person's telling me it's not essential. Well, I got news. Many Christians, evangelical believers, treated corporate worship as if it wasn't essential prior to the outbreak. And if we've acted like it was not essential prior to it, we have no reason to complain about others treating it as not essential now. We need to realize it is absolutely essential for our spiritual health, for our family's health, and ultimately that even spills over into our culture and our nation, that we make this a high priority. So I hope you'll do that, and I look forward to seeing you each and every Sunday. I remind you, we're going to still try and stay outside if we can until Thanksgiving. Make it a priority. Even if you can't gather when we're back inside because of health issues, I encourage you, come join with us while we're outside so you can hear from God speaking to you in the midst of His people and join in and responding back in worship. Hope this helps you, and I hope you have a great week. God bless.